Good night, everybody, and welcome to the Prince of Homburg to go. Today's cast are Prince Friedrich Arthur von Homburg, a young general of the Brandenburg cavalry. He's the foster son of the First Lady, the Duchess, and of her husband, the Duke of Brandenburg, who are currently braving the Swedish in war. The niece of the Duchess is Princess Natalie von Oranien, and Homburg is quite taken with her. Hohenzollern is by no means the German emperor, but only a count, and a kind of friend of Homburg's according to a very loose definition of the term friend. Then there's Field Marshal Dörfling, who is the highest-ranking military commander after the Duke, and an old warhorse of the cavalry called Colonel Kottwitz. Naturally, there's a bunch of other uniform smurfs, seeing as they always appear in packs, but you don't have to remember the lot. The play is set in 1675, Prussia is still called Brandenburg and anything but a major power in European politics, but Kleist, stemming from a very old Prussian family with many soldiers in the pedigree, is looking into the military spirit here that is to characterize the country and indeed Germany for many centuries to come. It is midnight in wartime. The place is the park of Fehrbellin Castle, where the prince is sleepwalking, and because television hasn't been invented yet and his friend Hohenzollern has noticed his sleepwalking, he's invited the whole mishpoke, the whole of the court, to watch Homburg sleepwalking. So the duke's there, the princes, and they all stalk him, and Hohenzollern goes, "That's crazy, isn't it? He has orders to march off with his troops, and here he is, sleepwalking." And the Duke does indeed think this is crazy shit and takes a laurel wreath away from Homburg that he's been holding in his hands. The Duke entwines this laurel with a chain he's been wearing and hands it over to the Princess von Oranien. Then the princess faces Homburg with these props, and he suddenly goes, "Natalie, my girl," which the Duke doesn't find particularly funny and goes, "Here, that's quite enough of the fun, cut it." So all the watchers draw back to the ramp that is leading up to the castle, and on the way the princess loses a glove. A little later, only Hohenzollern is left, and Homburg wakes up and goes, "What's up?" And Hohenzollern replies, "Well, you were sleepwalking." "Oh, yeah, and I did have this most peculiar dream in which the Duke appeared and Thingy who? Well, Thingy here, she even lost her glove, which he now finds." So Homburg is absolutely confused about what was a dream and what is reality, but instead of being able to sleep it off or have a breakfast at least, they are to come to the issue of orders for the following day of battle. And the field marshal goes, "Okay, now this is our plan," and all the commanders have to scribble down notes just like in school, when the princess enters and says, "Where the heck did I leave my glove?" Naturally, Homburg hears this, and as by accident drops the glove he's just found. And she goes, "Oh, here it is." Gallantly he picks it up and hands it to her, which she graciously accepts, saying, "Thank you, Homburg," and he replies, "You're welcome, Natalia," and off she goes. When the field marshal points out, "And the Prince of Homburg will not attack until he receives explicit orders to do so. Understood?" What was that? I said understood. Yes, of course, not attack until understood. But he really hasn't got a clue which orders were issued. Now, in the first part of battle, the cavalry Homburg commands is only watching while the infantry are being slaughtered and the artillery is shooting each other. And Homburg looks at that and says, "Now look at that, they are arranged quite differently from yesterday." You haven't heard a thing at the meeting, have you? Huh? Now it looks good. I think we'll attack now. And he replies, "No, wait, we have to wait for explicit orders." And Colonel Kottwitz says, "No, we've got to wait." And Homburg says, "Kottwitz, have you become a coward as well as old?" So Kottwitz storms up to him and says, "We will attack immediately," and jumps on his horse. Hohenzollern tries to prevent this once more, but the cavalry attacks. And as a matter of fact, it's a good thing they do, because the Swedish can be driven back now. A little later, Natalia and the Duchess are in a village nearby because they've had a carriage breakdown. Homburg finds them, enters with bad news. He takes his hat off and says, "Your Highness, the Duke is dead, for he has seen him falling." "Oh no!" And she suffers a nervous breakdown, and the princess goes, "And who is looking after me now?" And Homburg replies, "How about me? Would you like to get married to me, Natalia?" And they kiss, and are secretly engaged to be married. At this point, a messenger enters. "Your Highnesses, yeah? The Duke is still alive." "My goodness, I'm so sorry." "Thank God. But now off to Berlin, Homburg. He's waiting for you there." So Homburg hurries off to Berlin. In Berlin, we find not the capital in Washington, but the old castle, which is currently being rebuilt, where the Duke is waiting, saying, "Oh, well, we were lucky it went so well after all, but whoever was in command of the cavalry will lose their head." It wasn't Homburg, was it? No, it wasn't him. He was ill. And at this point, Homburg steps in and goes, "Hello, my Duke." And the Duke, not quite so ill. Are you ill? Me? No, I commanded the cavalry and we won. Good, yeah? No, not good at all, my dear. It was against orders. You are under arrest. I can't believe this. But his sword is taken away from him and he is flung into prison, which comes as a shock, because he thought he had won the battle. A little later, his friend Hohenzollern visits him and Homburg cheers. "Finally, I'm free!" "Really? Oh, I'm so glad for you." Wait a minute, I thought you were the messenger." "No." "Ah, okay, but he'll release me, I'm perfectly sure of that." "Are you really sure? He's signed the death sentence already." "What? Why? Why is he doing that?" "No idea." "Maybe because of the princess?" "You know, that's possible, because her marriage was to be part of the deal with the Swedish." "Oh God, this really could be the death of me. I need to see the Duchess immediately and appeal to her." And since he's an officer, they let him go out of prison just like that, because he's given them his word of honor to come back. The Duchess and Princess Natalia are hanging out in the castle when Homburg comes in and goes, "Your Highness, I plead for my life. I have passed an open grave on my way, which was a terrible experience. I want to live." And she just goes, "Get a grip on yourself, man. No, I want to live. Here, Natalia, she doesn't matter to me. Keep her. Oh, I want to live even as a simple peasant. Doesn't matter." And the Duchess goes sentimental and says, "Well, I've tried it, but my husband wants to execute you in any case." Natalia, being deeply disappointed, says, "Well, in that case, I'll go to the Duke once more." Which she does immediately and says to the Duke, "The Prince of Homburg begs for his life and mercy." "Oh, does he now? But I need to be just, don't I?" "Well, of course you have to, but how about pardoning him? You could always do that." Yeah, I could do that. Well, go on then and hand him this letter from me." And the Duke gives her a letter to take to Homburg. Homburg is in prison meanwhile, and Natalia hands over the letter and goes, "Here, you're free. Here's a letter from the Duke." So he takes the letter, reads it, and says, "It says here, I'm free if I believe the verdict to be unjust." "But I don't. The verdict is just, but you're free." No, I'm not without honor, you know." And to this, Natalia shows a most peculiar reaction. She says, "I like you," and kisses him again, but he remains in prison. In the castle, the situation is getting a little more complicated now. The Duke asks Hohenzollern, "By the way, chap, whose troops are those camping before my front door?" "Oh, they're just troops who happen to have marched here on your orders." And the field marshal enters going, "Rebellion!" "Oh, shut up, will you?" So the marshal goes to the background and Kottwitz enters and says, "Your Highness, I am pleading for the life of Homburg because without him we wouldn't have won the battle." "Oh, wouldn't we? Why don't we ask Homburg himself? Get Homburg." And while he's being brought, Hohenzollern adds, "And by the way, this whole mess wouldn't have happened if you hadn't manipulated him when he was sleepwalking in the garden." "You idiot, whose idea was it in the first place to watch him?" Which shuts up Hohenzollern nicely, but then Homburg enters. And the Duke says, "Homburg, have you been unjustly condemned?" To which he replies, "No." "Any other questions, gentlemen?" And they are all stupefied, but Homburg goes, "I've got one request, sir." "Okay. Don't sell Natalie to the Swedish, right?" "Will do," and off you hop again. So off he hops again, but the comrades keep muttering. The Duke is politician enough now to tear up the death sentence and say, "Okay, gents, enough of this foolery, come with me," and they go to the garden together. Here, Homburg was blindfolded and is waiting to be executed, to be shot. And he uses his time to rehearse his closing soliloquy. Now, immortality, your whole now, immortality, your holy mine. Immortality. Go on then, shoot me. And at this point, the Duke comes in with the whole mishpoki, the princess and all the officers, and quite as at the beginning of the drama, the Duke has brought a laurel wreath, which he now hands to Natalia. Homburg's blindfold is taken away, and she places the laurel wreath on his brow, while he goes, "Oh, wait a minute, what's this supposed to mean?" And when he's got the laurel wreath, he swoons. And the Duke goes, "Let the cannons roar and wake him." So the cannons roar, Homburg comes to and says, "Is it a dream?" To which all reply, "Yes, this is a dream." The father of the nation has invented blind obedience, the prince has learned his lesson, and Prussian military madness is now set to run its course. And this, dear congregation, is the Prince of Homburg. At least he gets Natalia.
Vielen Dank.